Welcome to Dependable Flame, where we explore vintage petrol lighters, ashtrays, tobacconiana, and other useful mechanisms. Make yourself at home. Today we are doing a little bit more tinkering with this vintage Thorens double claw petrol table lighter. It was working pretty good once we got the file wheel turned around to where it's grinding the flint in the proper direction. And we put a new wick in it, just a wire lead Imco Wick, which you can see is a little bit loose. You can pull it up and down. So probably not the exact fit that it needs. And I kind of jacked with it there, but it seems like this lighter is lighting about every third strike. About every third time you press the button, it'll light up. When I first filled it up, it seemed like it was lighting a little bit better than that, but I can't remember whether or not that was before I put the Imco Wick in it or not. I think that it did have the Imco Wick in it at that point, because I think when I got this lighter it didn't have a wick in it at all. I got a message late last week though from our friend Jay Sales, and he's shown some interest in this lighter. So I thought, let's get it back out. It still had fuel in it. It still lit on about the third time when I pushed the button after pulling it out. But the flame was a little weak, so I went ahead and added a little bit more fuel. And there you can see what I'm saying about how it seems like it's lighting about every third strike. So it should definitely be more reliable than that, more dependable. So we are going to crack open our fuel tank here and start pulling out wadding. Now this wadding is, like I said, full of fuel. I just fueled it up, so somewhat moist at least as we pull it out of here. So we'll have to see if we need to put it in something. You can see the wadding coming apart. Of course, you guys watched me put this wadding in this lighter not all that long ago, here in the last few months anyway. And I always like to feed it down in there in a single strand, hoping that it will come out the same way. But as you can see here, this is somewhat difficult coming out, as per usual. So we'll just see how it decides to come on out as we pull it out of here. Not too bad. It is coming out in some pretty good clumps, so that is nice. So maybe it was just a little tight, packed a little densely right there toward the top. And this wadding is pretty damp, but I don't think it's going to cause any damage on our video set here. Everything that you see, the surface, this is paper. We got paper in the background. You can see where from time to time fuel or some other wet or moist object got up against one of the pictures on the wall or one of the lighter graphics. You can see this is coming out pretty nice now. Pretty easy. One long strand of it. So pretty nice when it works out that way. We probably will reuse this wadding that we had in there this time because it was fairly new, not stagnant looking or dusty, and it appears as though we may have gotten it all out of there. You can see part of the wick through the hole there as we pull that wick out. Take our pick here and just see if we can feel any cotton. And I don't feel any cotton there in either direction. So that should be all the wadding that was in it. And you can see there where it is getting the surface a little damp. Oh well. Now before we start sticking this wick down in there, or trying to feed it down in there, there is an element to these Thorens lighters that may make it a little easier. And that is that this wick chimney will pry up and out of there. So there you can see the chimney. Now we're going to feed the wick down in that way, fish it back out, but if we could slip this wick into the chimney from the top and slide it down, then that would make things a lot easier. So we are going to employ the same knot that we used to go down the other direction. It's the first time that I've ever done one of these Thorens wicks in this way. So we are going to use this in this direction to feed the wick or the wick chimney down over the wick. May have to cut away some of this excess plumage that is sticking out from the wick. So we're just going to kind of trim that off there. Now that we got that trimmed a little bit, let's try to feed this one more time. Got the collar or wick chimney, and then we've got the wick. Use our needle nose here to hold our wire. Of course, we get this collar on this end, then we will just retie a wire onto the other end. And our wire came off, but we did get that on there far enough that it should serve our purposes. So let's get a hold of a little bit of this here. And hold that tight, get that pulled just a little bit further down. We can always trim this up a little bit more once we get it in there. So now that we've got the chimney installed on the wick, we could probably feed this wick down. If we could get all the fibers held together. So we'll go ahead. If we hadn't gotten that all bloomed out, it probably would have gone down in there, and we might have even been able to fish it out the hole okay. But since it is all bloomed out, we'll go ahead and take another wire. You've seen this before, the 0.3 millimeter beading wire. It's what we are always going to use when you see us with a wire tied to the end of one of these wicks. So there's your little length of wire. Now we will take that and we're just going to form a simple knot like you're tying your shoes. It's the only knot you need for these wicks. Draw that down. Get our wick inside of there. So pull it tight so hopefully it doesn't fall back out of there again. And get it down here toward the end. There we got it tied as tight as we can get. Now bend those up. This is the same way that you would have tied that wire on to get the chimney over the other end of the wick as well. And you guys are experiencing this one just as I am. Like I said, I've never replaced a Thorens before that I pulled that chimney out of there. I have known for quite some time that they should pry up out of there. I just never really saw the need for it. But as tight as this wick was going through there, it just seemed to me that it was going to be advantageous to be able to get that over the wick first. And then we'll go ahead and get it all fed down in there together. So now that we got this all spun tight, tie it off here, pull it tight, right there. Now cut it off just above the knot. Get rid of our excess wires. Now we've got this wick with the chimney on one end and the wire on this end that we're going to feed down the shaft that chimney fits into. And then pull the wire up out of this fuel hole. Hopefully everything lines up. Pulls down in there exactly as it is supposed to. And hopefully when we are done here, we will have a lighter that functions a little bit better than it did. Okay, so we can see that is going down that shaft now where the chimney will install in that little hole. Now we just need to get our wire fished out of here. Okay, there it is if we can get a hold of it. That wire pulled out. And there you got the wire. You can see the other end of the wick coming out as well. So we will feed that down in as we pull this out. And no reason to pull that by the wire anymore. No reason to pull the wick at all. We just seat our chimney right back down in there. So there's our wick in place. One of the wicks from the eBay seller david2052 that he says has been braided to the same specs the way they always have been, and we'll just see exactly how well this thing works once we get the wadding reinstalled. So now that we have the wick in place, we can pull this wire off. If you have to, you can cut the wick. May cut the wire if you can't pull it off. Just see what we can manage here. So cut the wire off of it. Now got our other old wires and wicks and stuff back here. We'll go ahead. A lot of this fuel that was in this old wadding has now probably already dried out, but we will reuse this anyway, just so that we get the benefit of the fuel that is already soaking some of that wadding. Try not to mar up the outside finish. The chrome finish to the slider right around the fuel hole. Try to get that wick interspersed down through there as best we can. And you can see that wadding is just feeding right down in there. No problem whatsoever. Kind of been pushing most of it here toward the back. Now we'll turn here and push it toward the front. Some of this which came out tearing, maybe it'll go back in a little easier. It's not the biggest fuel hole in some of these Thorens, and especially in this table model. We are going to put all this back in there because we know that it all went in and it was a little bit tight coming back out. Nothing major. And you do want it packed in there fairly densely so that your fuel is not sloshing around. It's all being held nice and tight with wadding. It's packed in there to the right density. Then we'll tuck our wick away in there. Grab a couple more small pieces here just for the top. Yeah, it looks like it might hold a little bit more, so we've already got some thinned out over here. So we'll keep feeding that down in there, and I don't know, perhaps maybe the fact that we didn't have enough wadding in it before might have had something to do with its inability to strike as you would like it to, for it to be as dependable and reliable of a lighter as we all hope to use. So good wadding, probably at least another 50% packed in there than we had last time. Got our wick, which is definitely bloomed out. We may have to trim that once we get things going here. Well, we will just see. Without even fueling it, lights right up. And there again on the third time. Get our trusty old can of Ronsinol fuel here. Squirt a little more fuel down in there. And it'll definitely hold some more. And a good table lighter should last you a good while on fuel economy. Most table lighters are going to seal off a little bit better than pocket lighters. Not going to evaporate quite as much. And then you've normally got a much bigger tank with a table lighter, so that helps as well. With this particular lighter, you've got this side, which is for your spare flint, which when I got this, there were a bunch of spare flint that had degraded inside of there. And then this side is your wadding, where you refuel the lighter. May have some vapor lock going. Hopefully it's not still a 3-striker. But I would like you guys' feedback as well, and especially you, Jay, because the next thing that we're going to do with this lighter is to put a felt base on it. Now, I'm still not 100% positive that this lighter is going to work the way that I want it to, but either way around it, we need to get a felt base on it sooner or later. So from the colors you guys see here, this is what I have available. Red, brown, baby blue, sort of a royal purple. That may be like a navy. You got a gold or yellow, a forest green type hue, a white, and black. So I don't know. I think that the purple or the yellow would look good on it. Maybe the blue, any of them except for maybe the white, but even the white might look good and just kind of blend in with the stone. So keep that in mind. You guys let me hear what you think, and we will continue our project with this lighter. Until next time. Let's just see how many strikes it takes us here for the end of this video. There's number 2. And there's trusty old number 3. So we'll see if we can get it a little bit more successful more than every third strike. But for now, this is where we're at. Have a david2052 wick in there, fueled up, and it lit on the third strike. We'll see if we can get it to light on the first one. Until next time.